Hi, y'all. This is Warner E. Hodges, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. Let it rock.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all-ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter or X at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Warner E. Hodges.
Yeah, Warner has a new album out called what, Jeff?
Soul Shaker.
Yeah, so I believe he's planning on hitting the road again in 2024. So let's get to that interview.
All right, good night.
Good night.
As 2023 is coming to a close, we've had a fantastic year here on the Nothing Shocking Podcast. Hope you've enjoyed the variety of episodes we've shared with you. Wishing everyone a happy holidays and blessings in the new year.
Warner, welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'd like to introduce
Thank you very much.
Introduce you, my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Warner, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, man, thank y'all for having me.
Fantastic. Well, hey, this past 2023, the Warner E. Hodges Band will actually released the Soul Shaker album. Can you tell our listeners about the writing and recording of this most recent endeavor of yours?
Well, we did it at the Underground Treehouse, which is Joe Blanton's place. I don't know if you guys know Joe Blanton. But
yes.
Joe used to sing for a band called Loyal Court of China. I've been buddies with Joe since the 70s. I actually played drums in his my first introduction. Joe introduced me to the Ramones in 1977. So we go back a long ways, and we cut Soul Shaker at his place. My band, my British band, we were over on the Outlaw Country Cruise, and after the cruise, we flew up to Nashville and cut the record.
Oh, very good.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that, the Treehouse studio? You've recorded a couple of your other albums.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, if I got to be honest, almost all of my solo stuff's done there. You guys familiar with Dan Baird, right?
Yep,
of course.
Oh, yeah.
All right. A good half of Homemade Sins stuff was cut there. We also have kind of a Nashville version of a quote-unquote super group. We got a band called the Bluefields, which is Brad Pemberton from Steve Earle and Ryan Adams on drums. Dan Baird plays bass in that band, and I play guitar, and Joe sings. We've done 5 Bluefields records there. We've cut a lot of records there.
Oh, very good. I guess when it comes to the songwriting, what is your approach? Every artist has their own different method, but when it comes to songwriting construction, what is your method to your madness?
Well, dude, I've been pretty fortunate having been in a band with Dan for 13, 14 years. I mean, Dan's a monster writer.
Yeah.
Joe is an ungodly writer. And I tend to come up with guitar hooks. I have gotten the last few years from being around those guys. I've gotten quite a bit better at, Dan Baird used to say to me, quit noodling and play me a chorus. I want to hear a chorus,
Right.
And I've learned to pay attention. Nashville, Tennessee, man, song comes first. Everybody in town can play guitar. Let me hear your song.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, very good.
How is Nashville thriving right now in like the live scene area? I know it's been a hotbed for a number of years now, but how's it going right now?
It's kind of a weird thing for me. I am gone so much on the road playing that when I'm home, I'm kind of grandpa guy.
Yeah.
And when I'm home, I'm a little bit more at my wife's disposal. I don't go out the way I used to go out. Plus, 9 times out of 10, when I'm home, I'm usually working on a record. I'm in the process of writing the next record now. So, nice. You're always as good as your last one. You always need another one.
Absolutely.
So it's crazy. It's crazy for me to think, that Soul Shaker's just come out and I'm already working on the next one. But that's the way it works, and that's the way it's been for the last 20 years for me.
Well, let's bring this back to Soul Shaker.
Yeah.
It's the band's 5th album since 2008. Can you talk a little bit more about the evolution of the band's sound, writing, recording process? Is it business as usual, or has the band evolved at all?
No, it has evolved. What originally happened, the original impetus for me doing a solo record, when Dan Baird started talking about retiring, I was like, ooh, I need to start thinking about what the next step is, because I'm not planning on retiring. I'm going to go until I die, if I can, unless physically I'm forced out of the game. I love doing this. Dan hated everything about road life except playing the shows. He hated traveling. He hated airports. He hated the hotels. Loved playing the shows, but he hated all the other part of it. I've been doing this stuff since 1969. I love doing this. It's all part of what you have to do to be able to play shows. So when Dan started talking about retiring, it's like, okay, I got to get a band together. And I have slowly pieced together a really, really great band. The first few solo records I did kind of by myself with Nashville guys. And then I started incorporating my band guys a little bit. And the last 2 Warner E. Hodges Band records, the whole band has actually played on the records.
Nice.
I pieced together a really great band.
Fantastic.
Oh, you started I think a 38-date tour back in September. How's that tour been going?
Dude, it was eye-watering. It was great. I haven't, if I got to be dead up honest, I haven't went at it that hard. I think the longest one we ever did with Dan was 7 weeks. We did almost 10 weeks, and it was wonderful, but I was beat when I got my butt back home.
Yeah. How many guitars do you take with you on the road?
I usually have 3 or 4. It depends. I think I was carrying, I actually had 4 this last tour. I don't always use them, but I usually have at least 3, most of the time 4, 5. Different tunings, different stuff. You got to be prepared for it. If something blows up, or we don't have to stop. We can keep moving.
When it comes to the gear that you take on the road opposed to the gear that you use in the studio, can you talk a little bit more about your road gear opposed to your studio gear, or is it all the same?
The last 2 records, it's all been the same. I started playing. I don't know if you guys want to go down this gear road.
Go ahead.
I've become a Bogner amp guy. I've got the Goldfinger 45. I guess it's after the Marshall JCM 45. It is a great amp. I fell down a rabbit hole about it, and I've got a contact that was able to get me to Reinhold Bogner. I talked to him. He built me one for here. I keep it at the Underground Treehouse. I've used it exclusively on the last 2 records. I didn't use anything else. And I actually own one that I had him make me a 220 version that sits in Europe, and I carry it on the road with me over there. So I've used the same amp, same guitar, same pedal board all the way through the last 2 records. The guitars changed quite a bit. I've got a lot of stuff here that I don't actually fly with. I got good stuff over there, and I carry a Les Paul or 2 with me each time I go over.
Nice.
But I don't fly a lot of guitars anymore.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about your stage presence and how that's evolved from being a guitar slinger to being the front man in the Hodges Band?
Oh my God! That one's a weird one because I once again I learned a lot from Dan Baird. And playing in Jason and the Scorchers. My God, yeah. Jason was a great front man. The biggie is, I think Dan used to say, you're always a better band member if you have to stand in the middle for a night or two. Then when you go back out to the wings, you're a much better band member than you used to be.
Yeah.
It's a different set of problems. When you go to the middle of the stage, there's a whole different set of problems that arise that you have to deal with. Not only are you having to remember the lyrics and sing the songs, you've got to be the MC, you've got to be the guy that keeps it moving or slows it down, paces it, whatever. And, as the guitar slinger, all I had to do was every now and then step up to the plate and swing for the fence, It's a different head, I joke with Dan all the time, like in his band, I would, that would be when I do my sprint during the solos. Now, if I take a guitar solo, I'm trying to get air for the next verse, It's kind of a different head.
Yeah.
Well, as we're talking about, touring and playing live, can you talk a little bit more about the Warner E. Hodges bands following over in the Euro UK area opposed to here in the United States? Can you talk about the differences in your audiences?
Yeah, quite honestly, I've been very fortunate. Both Jason and the Scorchers and Dan Baird and Homemade Sin, I've been playing Europe with those 2 bands for 40 years, And when I started doing my solo band, I would, I'd tack a few British shows on here or a German and Swedish show on there to a Homemade Sin run, but we didn't really do tours. And when Dan retired, all of his apparatus kind of fell in my lap. All that road work that we had been doing for years, we had built a pretty nice little following. Of course, not all of those people came with me, but a lot of them did, So I kind of had a little bit of a built-in, and we do some Homemade Sin stuff and my thing. Hell, those songs I co-wrote too. They're my songs too, We do some Jason and the Scorchers. I have a lot to do with the Jason and the Scorchers stuff. So, I've got a big well to draw out of. But I don't do a lot of American work. My British guys, it's $4,000 a man to get work papers to bring them over here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it makes it, when we go to Europe, everything's all legal. I got work papers. Everything I do is by the books. And it's just very difficult to bring those guys here and work them right now. The way the laws are, I can't afford to do it. So we just don't,
Yeah, very good.
It's sad. We're trying to find a workaround, but we haven't found one yet.
Yeah.
I want this band to tour America. It is a great band.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In our intro, before we started recording, you had mentioned that you take some hard physical product of the new Soul Shaker album out on the road with you, but when can fans expect to find it online or in stores?
I think I want to say it's like mid-December.
Okay.
God, I know that's really shoddy of me to not be able to give you a damn date.
Oh, that's all right.
It's like, but I want to say it's like mid-December. I know it was actually considered a bit of a faux pas that we had 1,000 of them printed up, took them on the road for the shows. We weren't supposed to do that, but we accidentally did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you spoke about your tour or the live shows that you played here this past fall. But as far as live shows and touring goes for 2024, what can your fans expect from you?
Well, I know we're doing we're doing the Outlaw Country Cruise in February. February 4th to the 10th, we're on the Outlaw Country Cruise boat going out of Miami. I think Blackberry Smoke's the big band on that, but, we're going to have a good time on that. And then in May, we're doing a co-bill all the way through Europe with Warrior Soul, which is going to be really fun.
Yes.
And I think in the fall, the plan is to do some American dates, but I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, well, we're going to be looking for those.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, dude, if you're up for a night of rock and roll music, that's what you can get out of us. It's a good night.
Absolutely.
Well, we talked to a lot of guests that that do the Monsters of Rock tour. Tell us a little bit more about the Outlaw Country Cruises.
It's a weird thing. I did it with Dan. We did a lot of these boat things in Europe, and they were. Yeah, I hate to say it, but you literally played and ran back to your room. They were just drunk fests, But I dreaded. I've actually been involved in all 8 of the Outlaw Country Cruises. I did 1 and 4 with Dan. 2, I was playing in Driving and Crying. 3 was Jason and the Scorchers, and 5, 6, 7, and now 8 has been my solo thing. But it's. I dreaded the first one, and when we got on the boat, it's just hardcore music fans. I mean, they're really into it. Like I say, I've done 7 of them. I've only had 1 drunk. Please get out of my face. You're driving me crazy, guy. And I guess it costs a pretty penny to get on the boat, and the people that get on there want to listen to music first and party second. They still have a good time, don't get me wrong, but it is kind of about the music first, and I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's fantastic.
There's, for me, I always host like an all-star jam on the thing because I know 3/4 of the bands that's on there, I've known them for 30, 40 years.
Right.
And it's real easy to pull together a jam, which the fans love. We get all kinds of people up and literally no rehearsal. It's like, here we go. Let's see what we got. That's always fun.
To piggyback off of the touring talk and what have you, but as we're in this post-COVID-19 era now, where COVID looks like it's in the rearview mirror for good, knock on wood. How do you feel as though the atmosphere and the audience turnout has been since you've been playing live shows post-COVID?
Well, I lucked up. I went back. The first tour I did back, I did some Christmas shows at the end of 21 that become 22, and I landed in Britain the day Omicron blew up. We were lucky. We only had 6 shows. We did them all, but every opening act that was supposed to play with us had to cancel. And by the time I got on the plane and flew home, 3 of the 6 places I had played was closed again.
Oh, wow.
So it's weird. It's back, but it ain't like it used to be. And I don't know that it ever will be.
Right.
It's, I've jumped through every hoop that they asked me to jump through. I was willing to do whatever to get my life back and be able to play music. I feel like a pincushion, the amount of vaccines and boosters and all that I've had. That's okay. I'm cool with that. I'm an Army brat. Every time a new vaccine come out when I was a kid, they lined us up at school and gave it to us, whether we wanted it or not,
right.
But it's, I don't know that it's fully back. I know people are sure as hell happy to be back at shows.
Very much so.
But it's, it is, I do have a few hardcore fans that I know of that still ain't going to shows,
That's unfortunate.
They're scared.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. And, people that have a little age on them, 25-year-old, I don't think has to be that worried about COVID. Somebody that's 70 does,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. I had it twice during the lockdown, and the first time was before the vaccine was available. And had I been my mother's age, I could have seen it kill me. It destroyed me. And I consider myself to be in pretty good shape for my age. And the first time I had it, it destroyed me. The second time was like a bad cold, a minor flu. But I'd been vaccinated and boosted the second time,
Absolutely. Yeah. Jeff, you got the next one?
Well, yeah, let's talk a little bit. 2022, you had another band, a side project band, the De Piratas, with Jeff Johnson and Tom Peterson. Can you talk a little bit about how?
Well, it's Peterson. Actually, Tom Peterson. All the Cheap Trick guys are buddies, and Tom Peterson's a Nashville guy now. He lives here. I ran into him. He played bass on my whole Right Back Where I Started record. 4 or 5 years ago. At the Underground Treehouse. He come over and I ran into him in a club one night and he said, "Why haven't you ever hired me to play on your record?" And I was like, "Well, Tom, I don't have Cheap Trick money." And he kind of laughed and asked me what I paid the guys. And I told him, he said, "Well, I'll do it for that." And it was like, sign me up. Come on. And when we did this De Piratas thing, Jeff Johnson, the original bass player from the Scorchers, had fell back into my life.
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine named Jonathan Bright played drums and sang on the record. And Jonathan also has a Peterson connection. And I guess Jonathan just mailed Peterson the record to listen to, and Peterson sent it back with bass tracks, you know.
Nice.
So, which is like, dude, only in Nashville, Tennessee. That's just cool. Like, you mail a buddy a record to listen to, and he sends you a better bass track back with your record, you know.
Very good.
Crazy shit, you know.
You know, we talked about, you know, your work with Joe Blanton and Dan Baird and Tom Peterson, and working with some these heavy hitters that you've worked with over the years. How has it formed you as a guitar player? Has it made you feel like you had to amp up your game a little bit or your chops a little bit? Or was it, you know, like, once again, was it business as usual for you as a musician?
No, you know what? I'm known. I mean, Dan and Joe would tell you this if they were sitting here too. I'm 64, man, and I'm always pushing myself. I have to get better. I work on that every day. I have to get better. I demand a lot out of myself. I therefore demand a lot out of the people I'm playing with. I sometimes get the reputation for being a little bit rough to work with because I demand a lot out of myself and I demand a lot out of everybody else. But it's because I want to be a better guitar player tomorrow than I am today. You know, I mean, and I feel like I'm still getting better. You know, maybe I'm not, but in my head I am. I do what Richie Blackmore called, you know, the plateauing. I plateau every now and then. It's like, wow, man, 2 months is exactly the same. And then all of a sudden something happens and the skies open up and you take a leap up, you know. But I am always struggling and striving to be better than I was yesterday.
Very good. You know, we interviewed Steve Stevens of Billy Idol fame.
Good Lord. Yeah, and there's a guitar player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and he was very humble in his conversation with us. But, you know, he had spoke about, you know, so many times in the morning he'd get up and pour himself a cup of coffee and he would stare at one of his guitars and he talks to his guitars and he says to his guitar, "What are you going to teach me today? What is the guitar going to teach?" Is a mindset for you, being the guitar player that you are. You know, what is your thought process? Do you have that feeling that the guitar teaches you as you go along, as far as?
Well, dude, you know, it's what Les Paul said. You can work the rest of your life. You're never going to find all of the mysteries. You know, there's always more. There's always more. Just about the time you start thinking, "Wow, I kind of got this thing conquered." BS, you know. It's no, you don't. There's all kinds of brand new you don't know about, you know.
Yeah, very good.
I completely get exactly where Steve Stevens is coming from with that one. You know, it's like there's times where you know I've got an old guitar, the first guitar my parents ever got me. I got a '62 Jazzmaster. My parents bought it for me before I played. It was just in the closet when I started fumbling with one of my dad's guitars. He pulled it out and went, "No, this is yours." That guitar knows where I'm going even when I don't. I swear it's got a mind of its own.
That's awesome.
But I love it. Like, if I get lost, the guitar is never lost. I'm lost, but it isn't, you know. I know that sounds absolutely insane. But there's nights where it plays you. You don't play it.
Very good. Jeff, you got the next one?
Well, just I guess off the back of that, how do you practice a lot, or you're just always tinkering around writing songs, so you don't really necessarily have to practice? How's it work for you?
Both. No,
Yeah.
both. Songwriting, I'm always trying to come up with. If it happens, if it shows up, you've got to jump on it. But I love the fact that at my age, I'll sit down on the bed for 5 minutes. I need to figure something out. And all of a sudden I realize I've been sitting there for 4.5 hours. I love the fact that I can still get that lost in the instrument. And that actually becomes, I'm playing for myself, it's like, I love the fact that I used to always joke, one of the great things about playing with Dan Baird, he would walk in the studio, it's been 4 or 5 years now, but he'd walk in the studio with 65-year-old knowledge and 15-year-old enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And that was wonderful. Dan loved the empty page. Here we go. Let's create something out of nothing. Let's make magic happen. And he'd go about it with 15-year-old enthusiasm, but 65-year-old knowledge and wisdom. And it was a wonderful thing to be a part of. It was a great learning experience.
Oh, so cool.
And I hope I bring that to some of my guys. I've got a 30-year-old and a 33-year-old in my band now. So I hope I bring some of that kind of vitality to what they're doing,
I tell you what, it sure sounds like it.
Yeah.
Well, it's supposed to be fun, but it's going to be work too, and if we can make it be fun, the work will be easy.
Absolutely.
Well, we talked a little bit about Dan and Joe on your new album, but we keep referring to the Hodges Band. But can you tell us a little bit more about who the other guys are?
I've got a guy named Ben Marsden that plays guitar with me. He's a monster player. A guy named Jason Knight playing bass. Nice. Jason has probably been with me 9-10 years. Great bass player. And a new drummer, the guy's name is Shane Dixon. Mm-hmm. Fantastic drummer, great singer too. And all three of them are just monster players.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I want to take this conversation back to 1986. Are you ready for this?
86.
Yeah. Back in your days of Jason and the Scorchers.
Absolutely.
The band released the Still Standing album. It was produced by Tom Werman.
Absolutely.
A former interviewee of ours. It was a fantastic album. Still stands the test of time today. I'm a huge fan of that band. But can you tell our listeners a little bit more about your experience working with Tom Werman?
Oh, my God. Tom, the thing that was wonderful about Tom had, the reason Jason and the Scorchers used Tom Werman was he produced all of mine and Jeff's favorite Cheap Trick records.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My second favorite band in the world is Cheap Trick. My first favorite band in the world is AC/DC. Tom produced all those Cheap Trick records that we loved. And when we found out that was a possibility, we jumped all over that. I don't know that Tom realized what he was getting into. I know he's a serious pro.
Yes.
But I'm sure he thought, my God, who are these idiots? We weren't brand new, but we were pretty close to brand new at that time. We had only been a band 4 or 5 years. And up to that point, it had all been just, straight uphill. Everything had been working and been wonderful. But when we got to Still Standing, it was the first record where we didn't have songs yet. The first 2 records, Fervor and Lost and Found, we basically, when we got a record deal, we had the majority of the second record already written and was playing most of the stuff live. Still Standing was the first one. That was our sophomore Jinx record, if you want to call it that.
Mm.
And Tom did a real good job because we weren't really, if truth be known, looking back at it, hindsight, we weren't ready to record. And Tom pulled the record out of thin air.
Mm.
He's an amazing well, my God, think of the records. Good Lord.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's done some of my absolute favorite records, Plus, every day we were in the studio with Tom Werman. My God,
Yes.
That was big doings.
The thing that if I can remember my memory here about when we asked him about that album, and his comment to Jeff and I was, those guys were the constant professionals, getting into the studio and getting their work done. Yeah, I think
really?
he was obviously acclimated to a lot of partying back in those days. But he said,
and I got to be honest, we did.
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah,
but not at the studio.
Yeah.
He was very complimentary of you and the rest of the band, of you guys coming into the studio and taking care of business. So you guys were very proficient in your work. So he had nothing but glowing things to say about that album.
Wow, that's fantastic that he feels that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, you got the next question?
Well, yeah. The only Jason and the Scorchers question I have is there was a live album, Midnight Roads and Stages Seen. Yeah, there's a track on there where your parents come out, and because they were country artists of their own right, and your mom sings, kind of does the intro and sings with you. Can you just talk about that experience of having them on stage?
They used to do that a lot with us. I ended up in Nashville, Tennessee, because I played drums in my parents' country western band.
Yeah.
We moved here to pursue a record deal for my mother when my dad retired from the military in 1973. And, I literally played drums in their hardcore country band. And, it's kind of a weird thing. Up until I moved to Nashville, I thought everybody played their parents' country band. And, when I got to Nashville, I had friends that did. There was a lot of family members that played in their dad or their uncle or whatever's band, you know. And my parents, were very beneficial in how Perry, Jeff, and I my parents had a jam session set up in the basement of their house, band gear set up 24/7. People could play anytime they wanted. And we used to come down here and drink beer when we were teenagers and play. And Jeff Johnson always credited my dad with the birth of Jason and the Scorchers. We would get a few too many beers in us and just hop up some country songs and basically play them as if we were the Sex Pistols. And my dad walked by one day and looked at Jeff and he said, you boys actually have something there. If you actually got a little serious with it, you've got something. And my Jeff, the rest of us thought that was funny. My Jeff actually was like, wow, your dad thinks we're on to something here. Maybe we should get a little serious with this,
Yeah.
And when Jason Ringenberg moved to town, we just had when Jeff ended up playing with him first, and then I fell into the band and I brought Perry in the band, and it was, the vehicle was right for what we were doing. We were listening to Hank Williams, but we were listening to the Pistols at the same time. And then Jason moved to town and was listening to Neil Young and Bob Dylan. And, it was just this weird mix of everything going into the pot. And then how it came out of our four collective minds,
Such a fantastic, unique band.
Yeah.
Well, it was crazy unique. For sure, it was crazy unique. I mean, I think about it in those days, you didn't hear a distorted guitar on country radio.
No.
Now, I mean, hell, if we come out now, man, people would think that we were a hat act, if we come out now. But in those days, I mean, we originally were called Jason and the Nashville Scorchers, and EMI had us drop the Nashville because they were like, you're gonna screw the record people up. They're not gonna know whether to put you in country bands or rock bands or what,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day. I was in Holland recently with my solo band, and Holland was the one place in the world that the Dutch record company pushed Jason and the Scorchers as a country band. The guy that was head of promotion in Holland got the country side of the band and really pushed that side of the band. And it was kind of a weird thing, everywhere else we were this bastardized rock child, but in Holland we were a country band, just kind of funny.
We have one last question to ask you because we're running out of our allotted time here. But I asked this question to all of our guests. The mystery of rock and roll. There's no longer a mystery as long as we have the internet and social medias and all these other things. There is no Led Zeppelin anymore. There's no Sex Pistols. There's no Kiss. There's no mystery. For you, the musician, and you've been a musician through the mystery phase of rock and roll, and now you're a musician in the accessibility.
I've seen the curtain pulled back. Yes,
exactly. But as far as you as a fan and the artist, what do you prefer? That mystery and mystique rock and roll once had, or do you like this new age of accessibility?
You know what? I'll tell you this. When I listen to records now, when I'm listening to something and I find myself going, wow, I wonder what kind of microphone they got on the kick drum. I'm already done. When I go see AC/DC, which I've seen them 105 times.
Wow.
When I go see AC/DC, I become that 15-year-old kid that wants to jam one more time. I'm not thinking about what mic's on what. I'm just sitting there going, damn, I hope they play a whole lot of Rosie. I hope they play Riff Raff. I hope they play, it's, the mystery of rock and roll is what moves you, man. What actually does move you. That stuff still moves me. I mean, on my last tour, I actually played an AC/DC tribute fest thing. The only reason I agreed to do it is they let me do the whole Power Age record.
Nice.
And I was like, absolutely, sign me up, dude. That's what made that record changed my life. Sign me up. We were the only band there that wasn't an AC/DC tribute act, so it was great.
Yeah, very good.
The mystery of rock and roll is what moves you. That's all. There's no mystery, man. Why is the Beatles still great? They only had 4 tracks because they were great. That's why,
Exactly. Well, we're running out of our allotted time for the evening. Is there anything that we left off tonight that you would like to plug or promote?
No, man. Go to my site. Go to WarnerEHodges.com. Y'all check out Soul Shaker. It's a really great rock and roll record. If you don't like rock and roll, don't go. You ain't gonna like the record.
Very good.
If you like rock and roll, you like 2 guitars, loud bass, loud drums, you'll like the record.
Oh, fantastic. Nice. Well, this is how things are going to work out. We're about 3 weeks behind on our episodes, but once we get all caught up here, Jeff will get it all cleaned up and edited. He's the editing wizard. And then we'll send you the link, and please share wherever you can.
I will do so, and if you guys want, I will gladly get you a copy of Soul Shaker.
Absolutely. Oh, cool. Warner, thank you so much for your time. It was awesome.
Yeah, we had a good
Thank you,
time.
guys.
All right,
Appreciate y'all including me. Thank you.
Yeah,
send me an address, and I'll get a record off to you.
I'll do that. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.